Sorry, do what now? Sorry?
I'm trying to balance
You know what I mean? And I know this interview is going to be great because in comedy,
This way.
a lot of times it's usually white people interviewing us.
The light needs to go. The light needs to go.
It's not their fault, but there is like a disconnect.
A little more.
Like they'll ask me questions about racism and sexism that I feel like you won't ask.
Yeah,
me
there.
because you already live it.
Just
it.
look at it.
No way that's lined up.
It's like I have to translate.
It's like what we're just talking about. Like, okay, no.
Oh, no.
Like,
Sorry.
no,
That's
I'm
way.
not
Sorry.
that, like, girl, yes, I know.
I was looking
at same haircut, but no.
You have to push the whole stand in
I
too.
loved you and us. You were just so great.
Welcome.
Thank you.
It feels like so formal. Like, welcome. I feel like I should say like, welcome to the show. Then I never know what to do with my hands. No, but truly, welcome. Thank you. I know you had to kind of trek across mountains and rivers and things to come here.
Yeah.
Tell us about you. Tell me who you are for anybody who's never heard who you are and what you do.
I am. I mean, do I say my name?
Mm-hmm.
Okay. I don't know.
Yes, please.
It just feels because we already talked, right? So for me to be like, let me just...
We talked, but they didn't hear it.
That's true. Okay. So my name is Hoodo Hersi, the Somali... That's the vanilla version of my name.
No, give us the real version.
The real version is Hoodo Hersi.
Say it again.
There we go. Right?
No, say it again.
But you'll be able to say it, I feel.
Yeah, say it. Sorry?
Hoodo. Close.
Hoodo. Okay,
see, there we go, right? See, I don't blame people for not being able to say my name properly because those sounds that exist in Somali don't exist in other languages, right? So that's why I go Hoodo. Because I don't want to sit there and spend an hour
explaining your name.
Yeah.
Got it.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm. But you have to educate after. Teach me.
Okay. So, and I'm a stand-up comic and a writer, and I've been doing this for a little bit now, and I love it. We need to make racism more equal. But there's all this talk in America about this Muslim ban, okay? And as a Muslim, I just think if we're gonna ban Muslims from America, fine, okay? Let's just do the same for white guys going solo to Thailand. Let's just spread that hatred even, you know? Should I get into the spiritual stuff? You know how Oprah on her podcast, she's like, but I am more than, you know?
I love that. Yes, because we are just like Oprah. Get into whatever you want to get into. Like, it's whatever you want to tell us.
And so I really love comedy, and my comedy is a combination of, I like to think people are laughing and learning at the same time, because there aren't a lot of people that look like me doing comedy. Yeah.
So let's just stay with that. So you said, should I get into the spiritual stuff? What do you mean?
Oh, but you know how Oprah's always like on her podcast, she's like, I'm more than.
So what is your title? More than?
I'm kind, caring, resilient. I can be very impatient at times. Sure, we got to be honest about the flaws. And I feel like, you know what? The other day, I had a friend of mine who's also in his mid-20s, and this is such a millennial trash problem, but he doesn't like smiling too much because he's noticed that he has crow's feet developing. And I just we are more than our body. You know what I mean? Also, I'm black, so I'll be fine. But
yes, you will be. But look at you, flawless. Yeah. So you said you're a comedian, a writer.
Yeah.
Both of which, what did your mom say when you said, I want to be a comedian?
Well, here's the thing, you don't. She's born in the 50s, and if there's anyone that I get my sense of humor from, it's definitely from her, because she's really funny. Mm-hmm. But yeah, she doesn't get it. I think my dad understands it more because he likes Trevor Noah and Dave Chappelle. He's a Chris Rock fan. My mom literally doesn't understand much of the difference between a clown and then a stand-up comic. They're really in the same world for her. You know?
And how did you even get to the point where you're I want to be a comedian? Because that's not a regular career choice.
It's not. It's really not. But growing up, I always had people, my friends, telling me that I was funny. Comics always tell you that. But also, I remember watching the Chappelle show with my older brother. And And just like a light bulb went off. And I was like, oh, this can be a career, you know? And then I remember the summer after I graduated from high school, I went to go visit some family in another city, and then I did the open mic there, and I was like, you know what, if I bomb and I do horribly, no one will know me. And then I can get the hell out and go back to Toronto. That was just like my Vegas, you know?
But okay, so you said your dad enjoyed comedy, and then you listed a whole bunch of names.
Yeah.
And then you said you grew up with Chappelle. None of those are women. And so,
you know what? And you know, as I got older, you know, some comics that I for sure have informed me, you know, have definitely informed my comedy are like Joan Rivers for sure, Wanda Sykes, Sarah Silverman for sure. Joan Rivers and Wanda for their work ethic, and Sarah Silverman because she can be so funny and silly, but then very dark and serious at the same time.
And we'll go to, so you've just said a whole bunch of female comedians.
Yeah.
None of whom are black.
Wanda Sykes.
Oh, Wanda Sykes. You're right. Wanda Sykes. But it's not a, you know what I mean? There's so few. I know Wanda and Gina.
Oh, Gina, yes.
Who I love.
That's great.
But there are not that many. So how do you, given that there's not a whole lot of representation, and then to factor onto that is you look the way you look. You wear it, you know, like you're unusual. So where would you get inspiration to say, yeah, I can be Muslim and I can be funny and I can be a black woman and stand on a stage and kill it?
I think it's because I was just born and raised in Canada, like in Toronto specifically, because other parts of Canada are not as liberal as Toronto. And also, I think there's a huge privilege in having been born in this time period. Because, I mean, if I was born in the 60s, we would be having a totally different conversation, right? So I have to for sure acknowledge the privilege that I have in, you know, having been born in the 90s.
Definitely an advantage. But you were born and raised in Canada, but you're of Somali descent?
Yeah.
And how much does that factor into the decisions that you make, the jokes that you tell on stage?
Well, on stage, I went to Somalia for the first time ever last summer, and it was wild because I was 27. It was my first time ever going. And I didn't realize how much sort of residual internalized racism I had left over until I went to a place where I was the majority. Everyone looked like me. Everyone said my name properly. My middle name is Mohammed, so in Somali culture, you take your father's name, and that becomes your name. Yeah. Mm-hmm. And here it's like, post 9/11, Mohammed, it's such a horrible thing. But over there, it was like, people were just like, oh, is that Mohammed Musa's daughter? Like, it was just like a name. It was just a regular name. So to have gone to a place, I was like, oh, this is the thing, everything's being flipped. I want to talk about that on stage. I haven't had the chance to do that yet. But yeah, aside from that, like, that's something I really want to address on stage. But what I currently do now on stage is I talk a lot about racism, gender. Once in a while I'll touch on body image issues and things like that. But overall, it's very like sort of North American. You know what I mean? I'm very excited though to start talking about my trip. I really want to. Yeah.
What's your greatest dream for yourself? In terms of your career?
We're asking the big questions.
In terms of career.
Look at
I know this is anyway.
We're asking the big questions. I would love to write and direct my own, learn how to direct, but definitely write and create my own TV show. Yeah. Which I'm working on now. I'm writing it. And as you know, like with writing, it's a long process. But yeah, that's what I would love to do, right? Because no one's writing rules for someone that looks like me. Yeah.
Very true. What's been the response or the reaction? When you perform, what's the reaction generally?
I think there's been a shift since I first started doing stand-up to now. So when I first started doing stand-up, there was like this weird tension. People sort of just didn't know. They were like, oh, okay. Like, they were just sort of taken aback, and I always had to sort of address the elephant in the room. Now, I think because there's a lot, in Toronto especially, there's a lot more comics of color. The tension may exist, like it's not as much. It's definitely not as intense. And now that I've been doing it for a few years, there's more of like I go up there and I'm like, I'm just gonna tell you what I want to tell you, and then you're gonna like it, Well, whether you like it or not, that's I'll work on the material, but these are the things I want to talk about, and I'm not shying away from it. I love doing the Chris Rock thing. Chris Rock talks a lot about how when he starts a joke off, he likes to start off by saying something that will get people like offended. Not offended, but just sort of like put them off.
Make
kind
them
of thing.
pay attention, yeah.
Yeah, but like it'll really put them off, and then he's put himself into a hole comedically, and he has to crawl, like using really good jokes and his stage presence and everything. He has to just crawl his way out of that hole. So like an example of one of my jokes that I really like is I go, it's me addressing a lot of racism that white women specifically get away with, right? And how in many ways, not all of them, but a lot of them silence women of color. And I start off the joke by saying, now that you like me, and I'll do this in the middle of my set, I'll go, now that you like me, let me say this. White women are the worst. And then the audience is like, what? And then I go, type of minority. And then they laugh. And then I build the joke and I sort of address it. Because listen, 52% of white women in the United States voted for Donald Trump. So clearly there's a conversation that needs to be had that we're not having as a society.
That is very true.
52%, that's really bad. Yeah.
Women voted for him. You're absolutely right.
Yeah.
And so you said that your greatest dream is to write a TV series, but you've had so far some really great success.
Yeah, thank you.
Tell me about some of the fun things that have happened, some of the big things that have happened for you recently.
So I got to do Just for Laughs last year, which for comedians it's huge because it's the biggest comedy festival in the world.
And you got to do Just for Laughs, and that was televised because not everybody gets televised.
That's
right?
true. Yeah.
You may do it, but they're not going to put you on TV.
So I mean, listen, So yeah, that was very exciting. But then also a huge highlight for me was, do you know who Hassan Minhaj is? So he has a show he used to be on The Daily Show. He did the White House Correspondents'
I do. And I think, yes, I do know. I think I may have sat behind him at a recent basketball game. I think. But
oh, really?
So.
Oh, that's so cool.
But anyway, keep going.
I love it. You're like, I don't know. I'm running into all these celebrities all the time. I don't know. Yeah.
Now I didn't talk to him. A whole bunch of people came up and were like, and people being sneaky, like trying to,
that's weird,
as if they're walking by and just like snap a picture. And I was like, poor guy, yeah. Anyway.
So I got to open for him, and he has a really great show on Netflix, by the way, called The Patriot Act. You should watch it.
I have watched Patriot Act. Yes,
it's a really great show. Yeah.
I have watched it.
So meeting him was surreal because he's very successful, and I was like, even though Trump's in office, it's still a really exciting time because a huge, I was really grateful to have done Just for Laughs and all these great things, but to have met him and opened for him was really cool. And I told him that, and I was like, how wild is it that even though Trump's in office, I get to meet you and be like, Assalamu alaikum. You know, and it's just so, and he's a Muslim comic and he's doing really well for himself.
Yes.
So that to me was a huge highlight last year, having met him. Yeah.
What else has been, because I know you have a whole bunch of other stuff, and you recently were the MC for TEDx.
Oh yes, yeah,
which is huge.
Why would you
forget that part?
Yeah, I don't know why we're getting these things. Yeah, I got to host TEDx Toronto, which was a lot of fun. That was great, and it's a different animal because it skews more serious. Mm-hmm. But they wanted me there because obviously you need moments of humor, right? So. And it was just so wild. There was this one moment where I was hosting it, and this woman, there's like this Thai dessert that can only be made by hand. Mm-hmm. There's only one woman in all of the GTA that does this.
Oh, really?
And she made like almost 2,000 of these tiny little dessert things. And as an audience, we were all meant to sort of eat it at one time. Mm-hmm. And then the woman in the front row ate hers. And then so I called her out and then people laughed. But that's like the idea, right? That's why they wanted me to host. I was like, I like your scarf, but you're not listening. You need to be listening. Yeah.
How do you prepare yourself for a show? Like, where does your material come from? Where's your inspiration? And how does it all come together for you to be like, okay, this is my set. This is what I'm going to say.
Oh, for TEDx? Or
no, just generally. Generally, when you're putting together a show.
Well, you always check in with the organizer of the event just to see, okay, am I allowed to curse in any way? Because even like the smaller curse words, like you don't want to use those. But also, I think a huge part of it for me is just understanding, they asked me to be a part of the event, so they know who I am. They know who I am, you know what I mean?
Yep, they've seen your stuff.
So it's not like they'll ask me to never talk about being Muslim or talk about race on stage, because it's like you knew what you were getting into when you saw my picture.
Right.
You know?
Yeah.
But I think a huge part of being a comic is really staying true to yourself. Because people know when you're not being authentic, right? And you can hear it in the laughs kind of thing, when people are just like that, those cheap laughs. I can't even describe. The clowns know what I'm talking about.
Yeah.
Right?
You know, you're not really laughing. You're just like, it's like the golf clap, right? Like, yeah.
Yes, the laugh version of that. That's great. Yeah, that's a really good, it's such a tepid, like lukewarm.
Yeah. What's been your biggest challenge as a comedian? As a Muslim, Black comedian?
You know what?
Female. Oh gosh, you're like checking all the boxes. Like minority, yes. Black, yes. Like Muslim, yes. Like
you know what? I think that's such a strength, though, because my perspective is so interesting. Like, I say this a lot because I have comics that are white and I go, listen, I don't want to be rude, but it takes a lot for me to really like a white male stand-up comic. It's like, what are you really offering me that I haven't heard for the past 20, 30 years, okay? All right? So that's why I like people like Bill Burr. But anyways, the point is, I think the most challenging part is the grind of it all. Like, there are days where I'm feeling super optimistic, and I'm like, this is, and I'm just feeling very motivated. But then there are days where, I mean, you may feel this too, where you're down, and you're not as productive,
and people come and say something funny. Tell me something funny.
Yeah, Ron Johnson had a really funny comeback for that. He was like, whenever people would say that, he would go, "You're good looking," which is like such a it's a mean, but it's also they were asking for it. They were really asking for it. Yeah.
So we talked about challenges. What's been your biggest failure so far on this journey, or what you consider a failure?
Wow. Failure. I don't, this is going to sound like such a narcissistic thing, but like, I don't think there has been, really. I mean, obviously there are bumps in the road, but they've made me a better comic. That sounds so cheesy, but really it has, My biggest failure. I think, when the stakes are higher and you have like a film or like a TV show and people have invested millions of dollars into a project and it doesn't work out, that's when it's, yeah, that's when it's a failure.
Yeah.
Yeah, but I feel really good about my journey thus far.
So if there's a young Muslim Black woman who's looking at you, who thinks they're funny and wants to be a comedian, or even a young guy who's different, quote unquote different, because aren't we always different?
Yeah.
What advice would you give to them if they wanted to pursue a career in comedy?
What advice would I give them? You have to. You shouldn't just want to be a comic. You have to want to be a comic. It's just something within you. You just feel compelled to do it. Because there are going to be so many bumps in the road, and so much rejection that you'll be dealing with, where there just has to be sort of like a part of you that just feels compelled to do it, whether it's like manic or you have to be a comedian, And I also think a huge thing, and I always hear RuPaul talking about this, is find your tribe. Because even though we're standing on stage alone, no one makes it in comedy alone. No one makes it in anything alone. So really find your tribe of like-minded people.
Who is your tribe?
Oh, should I name them?
Yes. Just don't miss anybody out.
That's so great. Just like my really close friends, my closest friends in comedy are definitely like Brandon and my friend Natalie, who's great because she runs this amazing show at Comedy Bar every Sunday, Crimson Wave. Plug. Anyways, and she's great because she has really given a lot of amazing opportunities to women and people of color and queer people. So she's great because she really has used her platform to help sort of lift up other people and give them opportunities. And then also my friends that aren't comics. Like, I'm really grateful for my friends that are not in comedy, because then if you're just around other comics, you're just talking about the same thing over and then there's no perspective. It's tunnel vision, it can be problematic. So a huge thing, I was in this documentary called Stand Up Toronto, and so the director, Geeta Sondhi, we ended up becoming close friends, and so she's really been an amazing friend of mine. And then also my friend Falmo has come to like every single one of my shows. She's amazing, yeah.
So you said your dad, you grew up watching comedy with your dad. What does your dad think of your act? Or does he ever give you feedback on your act?
I love that you think that they, listen, they're very just like African immigrant parents. Like, this is not, until, you know what's interesting is I was talking to a friend of mine, she's Somali as well. And I was like, and they were like, listen, when you have a show on Netflix, that's when they'll go, your parents will interview your parents and go, I believed in her all along. I just knew. And so I think that's just what'll happen. Like, I don't, because they don't get it. Like, they don't really get it. I remember when I first told my dad that I wanted to do comedy, my dad was like, I'd rather you just get a PhD first. Like, as if it's just going to the grocery store and getting bananas. Just do the PhD first, you know? And then maybe do this, you know? Yeah.
You did on the weekends.
Yeah, so he just doesn't get it, but, yeah, I mean, I'm making my parents seem like they're not supportive. I mean, they don't get comedy, but I really am truly loved by them. And I'm so grateful for them. And I notice that. My privilege in that. Because I'm surrounded by other comics and they're damaged. And I go, oh, I really have it good. I'm really lucky. Yeah.
Who are some of so you talked about some of the comedians who've inspired you or that, you've watched over the years. But even outside of comedy, who are some women that you look up to or inspire you?
Outside of comedy? Mm-hmm. You know what? There's a colleague of mine at my day job. She's great. And she is just so unbelievably generous. I remember.
You have to name her so when she watches this, she knows what you're talking about.
Claire. I withheld that because I didn't know, but okay, fine, we'll just say her name, Claire. She's great because I remember she was undergoing chemo. She had cancer. And the day before her last chemo appointment, and I was new at the job, she sat with me for almost 2 hours after work and went through like my entire report and literally was teaching me how to do it. Like, it was almost 2 hours, and the next day she had to go in for chemo. You know what I mean? Like, how many people, and she was already sort of undergoing treatment, and it was really sort of taking its toll on her body. I don't know how many people in the world would do that. And her level of generosity is like so inspiring. It's crazy, yeah.
Now, you're a beautiful woman. When do you feel most beautiful?
You know what? I feel most beautiful when I'm resting and when I'm not overworked and when I'm just laughing and I'm having a nice day off. That's really when I feel, because that is like it's going to sound cheesy, but it's like an inner beauty, Mm-hmm. Like, I feel rested on the inside. That's when I feel really like most beautiful. What about you?
This is about you, not me.
Okay, sure. All right. Okay. I mean, I'm curious to see other. What about you guys? You guys? When do you feel most beautiful?
I feel beautiful all the time.
All the time, you?
All day, every day.
You want to know? No? Okay. When do you feel no? All right. Okay.
This has kind of gone a different direction. What do you?
Yeah, off the rails.
Let's rein it. Yes, we're off the rails. Let's rein it in. Let's go back to you and your career. Yeah. What do you wish you'd known about this career before you started, or what do you wish someone would have told you?
You know what? To always expect rejection and really treat it like, as much as it's a lot of fun, laughter's great, it's also a job. I remember hearing Jerry Seinfeld say that. So take it seriously, you know what I mean? Record your sets, book your shows. Really, really treat it like it's a job. You know what I mean? Don't, for lack of a better, are we allowed to swear on this? No.
We can edit it out.
Okay. Well, don't half-ass it. I don't know how else to say that in a clean way. Half do it. Don't half do it. There you go. There's a clean edit. Don't have to, because a lot of comics get carried away with that, right? Because comedy, a lot of what we do takes place in environments like comedy clubs or bars or other places where people are drinking and having a good time. But no. You are the entertainer. You're on stage. This is a job. Take it seriously. Do not have to do it. Yeah.
That's very good advice, right? For anybody who is doing it, that this is work.
Yeah.
And that people are paying money to see you, and so it is still your work. What do you want people who watch you to feel when they're watching your set, or to take away from your set?
What do I want them to really take away?
Or to feel? How do you want people to feel? Yeah.
After seeing me perform on stage? Mm-hmm. You know what? I would love for them to have their own biases, their own prejudices challenged. I remember I did a show and it was sort of bringing Jewish people and Muslim people together. And this elderly Jewish woman came up to me after the show and she was like, at first when I saw you on stage, I was very uncomfortable. But then after you made me laugh, I didn't feel uncomfortable anymore. So that was just her way of saying, you made me less racist. Thanks. I'm less racist because of you.
She can go tell her friends, I met this one black girl once. She's actually quite funny.
Yeah, right?
One black girl.
Yeah. She doesn't have a lot of black friends. I know.
When's the last time you were most proud of yourself?
Oh, you're asking the good questions. I like it. Most proud of myself. Definitely opening for Hassan Minaj. I feel like that was huge. Like, it was so surreal because I was such a fan of his. And I'm still such a fan of his. But just the fact that I got to meet this man in the flesh, and then he watched me perform and then said, hey, I like this joke of yours. And then I could name my joke. I was like, this is so surreal.
That's huge to have someone you admire.
Yeah. And he was like, I was like a proud dad watching you.
Aww.
That's so sweet. Yeah.
That is a moment. What's the stage that you're like, I would love to perform, I don't know, whatever that is.
Oh, like the venue?
Yes.
That every comic? You know what? I'd love to perform at like Carnegie Hall or something in New York. You know? Or really...
I thought you'd say the Apollo, because isn't that where every comedian...
Oh, why not? The Apollo? I feel like the New York is really like a mecca for comedy, so any sort of big venue in New York, why not? I don't know if I would want to perform at Madison Square Garden, because it's just so big. I don't know if that's conducive to comedy, but listen...
Hey, people have done it.
Yeah, people have done it. Yeah.
So you can do it too.
Yeah. But that's like the mecca for comedy. So I think that's definitely one for sure.
What's the impact you want to have in the world?
I want people to laugh, but I also want people to really think. You know, I care about getting laughs, but I also really want to challenge people's ideas in a good way. In a good way.
So you've had success, and you're literally on the up and up, right?
No, yeah.
What are you most grateful for? Not necessarily just career-wise, but in life.
You know, there's this thing, you know the 5-minute journal?
Yes.
Yeah, so I do that every day.
Me too.
And the 3 things that I always list for what I'm most grateful for is my health, my family, and then just sort of the opportunities that I have in comedy. Because a lot of people don't find their passion. Like, I was talking to a family friend of mine, and she's like, I just do this job. Like, she's talking about her job. She's like, I just do it because it pays the bills, but it's not like something I'm passionate about. And that, I didn't say it out loud, but that kind of made me sad for her.
What does it feel like when you're on stage and you're like, you know, the jokes are just coming and people are responding? What does it feel like?
Wanda Sykes is a great thing where she talks about how when people really, really laugh, it's like there's a high and she's like, I wish I could just sort of, well, I'm paraphrasing, but she talks about how you could just sort of put it in liquid form and then just like shoot it up, because it really is a drug. Yeah. Because when people laugh, they're laughing from like a very real, visceral place, And they don't even have to be black to really laugh at a joke, but black people are like the best laughers.
Because we do that thing where we're like, laugh, and then our heads go back.
And they're banging on the tables, Whenever I see just like an all-white audience, I'm like, I'm going to do it because I have to, but, they're not the best laughers. It's sort of like a polite sort of reserve.
But we do love you white people. We do.
Sorry, guys. Sorry. He doesn't care. He's really nonchalant. I like his energy. None of this is going to make the edit, but it's fine.
What are you most excited about in life right now?
I'm really excited about the project that I'm working on, that I'm writing. Yeah. Because it's... I had something sort of horrifying happen earlier this year, and I was like, you know what? I'm going to take this, I'm going to put it in something. So at least this is like my outlet. I don't know what regular people do. You deal with trash and you just sort of like keep it there. I don't know. But so that's why I'm so grateful for being a creative. I get to just then put it out there, and share it with people.
And what are you most afraid of?
And is this supposed to be silly or serious or both?
Whatever you want.
You know what? What am I most afraid of? For the longest time, I was talking to my therapist about this. I was always scared of what is my life going to be like the day, this is such a privileged comment, the day my parents die, right? Because I'm so used to having their support.
Oh.
And no one tells you that as an adult. You just sort of come to the realization that, one day you're going to have to bury your parents. It's a bit of a sobering thought. I think to me and it's going to happen. But I think, I trust, I was talking to my therapist about it, I was like, I trust that I will have the resilience to make it through.
That's incredible to have that level of family support, to know that you've got someone who has your back. Right?
Yeah, and my mom was talking about how she's in her 60s and she still misses her mom, and I was like, that means it's never ending.
Aww.
It is such a privileged comment to make because there are kids in the world that are orphans. Yeah. Listen, this is a really sad point in the interview. I don't know why I made it so somber, but you did ask.
No, it's good. That's a legitimate fear. That is a legitimate fear. So that's, Okay, let's talk about something a little more joyful. What brings you the most joy?
I love being around, just laughing with my friends, and also enjoying like a nice meal with them. Yeah.
Favorite food?
I really love Thai food. Yeah, I like a green curry. That's so basic.
That's so basic.
I do want to go to Thailand so I can actually try sort of their...
An authentic...
Yeah, I want to be authentic. None of this...
I'm kidding, that is not basic. I love a green curry too.
Right? I love a pad thai, but I knew I was going to get roasted for that, so I said green curry first.
Sound a little more sophisticated.
But I do really like a green curry, but yeah. And I love sweets. I have such a sweet tooth. And it's so bad for you.
Yes.
Yeah.
Sugar is the devil. But I love it too.
It's very addictive. Yeah.
The last thing that we generally do, so I'll ask you a somewhat serious question.
Let's do it. I did talk about burying my parents, so let's get into it.
We're going deep. So this platform is called Ndini, which, can you say that? Since I can't say
Ndini?
Yes. Good job.
There you go.
And in my mother tongue, it means I am. And just because I believe in the power of I am and what you say shaping your destiny.
What language is it in?
It's Shona. So in my country, Zimbabwe, there are 3 main languages. English, because
colonialism. Yes.
And then Shona and Ndini. And Shona is spoken like this, probably the majority of the number. Myself first.
Whoa!
But we're the biggest in terms of numbers, and then Ndebele is the second language. So I speak Shona. My mother is Shona, and it means
very cool.
I am. Yes.
Yeah.
So finish that sentence for me. I am.
I am resilient. I am safe. I am loved, and I trust myself. That was a lot of I am safe.
No, I love that.
I just added so many extra things. You were like, I am one word. Yeah.
No, it doesn't have to be one word. art.
Yeah.
It can be whatever you want.
Yeah.
So yes, that's beautiful. That you
really and truly, yeah. You don't really make it in life until you really trust yourself. Yeah.
Okay. Well, thank you. Is there anything that you want to share, to say, that I didn't ask you? Any question that I didn't ask you that you particularly wanted to be asked? It's your opportunity. Plug your stuff.
I'll plug my stuff.
Anything.
Follow
No, really,
me on
anything.
Twitter. Do all the things. I always love getting asked that question. What advice would you give your blank younger self?
Mm-hmm.
I really like that question. Because I think of what I was
so sorry to disappoint you. Let me ask you that question.
No.
What advice would you give your younger self?
No, I only ask that because I just think of the growth that I've sort of had, and my younger self was really way more insecure and wasn't really sure of herself. But I remember hearing Lady Gaga say this of all things, and she was asked that question. She was like, I wouldn't tell my younger self anything. Because she said, and I really believe this, she's like, it was my naiveté that got me as far as it has. Because also, like, if I really thought about it, I was like, I'm black, I'm a woman, how am I going to do comedy? How am I going to do all this? No one out there looks like me, I wouldn't be doing this if I didn't have that naivete.
That's a really good point. What advice would you give yourself from a year ago? What would you tell a girl a year ago?
Oh my God. Don't be too hard on yourself, and don't use your phone as much. Stop checking your email as often. Everything will be okay. Yeah. I think that's advice you could give anyone, really, in this day and age. Yeah.
Everything will be okay.
Yeah.
Where can people find you? Where can people find more information about you, follow you, see what you're up to? What platforms are you on?
So for sure, Twitter, Instagram. Those are the big ones. But also, like, now you don't even need business cards anymore. People just ask you for your social media.
Yeah.
Right? It's great.
No one wants it. Like, I had printed a whole bunch of business cards. Like, they're like, no, just what's your Instagram handle?
Yeah, that's the new thing.
Okay.
Yeah.
So what are your Instagram and social media handles?
On Twitter, I am at Hoodo Comedy. So HOODO Comedy, one word. And then on Instagram, it's Hoodo18. I wanted to get my name, but someone else already has it. So maybe I have to do like a silly thing where I go, Miss Hoodo Hersi. You know when people do that?
Yeah.
The only. Yeah, you gotta do
for real.
Kevin Hart. I love Kevin Hart, but his thing is Kevin Hart, the number 4. Kevin Hart 4 real. That's his Twitter, but he can get Kevin Hart.
No, maybe the other Kevin Hart already had that.
True.
Yeah.
But there is on Twitter a lot of times people make this mistake. They follow Hoodo Hersi, and it's a teenage girl in Melbourne, Australia.
She must be like, I have a lot of followers.
And it's not fair. It's just not fair. That's my inner.
Give her name.
Yes. Yeah. So don't follow her. She doesn't deserve the love. I do. Hoodo Comedy. Yeah.
You've been an absolute joy.
Thank you.
I'm so grateful to have met you.
Thank you.
I'm so grateful that you answered my DM.
Oh, of course. Yes. Why not?
So I was like, I'm going to just slide in her DM and say, hi.
Yes, of course. Why not? Yeah, thank you.
Do you have a lot of gigs coming up soon? Or?
Yeah, I'm doing the Halifax Comedy Festival, so that'll be televised.
That's a big one, because I have heard of Halifax Comedy Festival.
Yeah, and that's going to be on the CBC, so that'll be fun. Yeah.
Network.
Yeah.
Yes.
Boom. Yes. Yeah.
And so you're writing. Like, when do you think are you pitching it to?
I'm gonna try to do that this summer, but writing is such a long process. So I am currently writing. Yeah. But stay tuned.
Stay tuned.
Yeah.
Because you're like, I love your humor, because you're right. That's what I love most. It's not a perspective we ever hear. Like, it's so different than, and you also can get away with, like throwing in some things which like a white girl couldn't get away with, right?
Well, that's the thing, right? And sometimes comics of color get pushed back from other white comics. And they go, well, how come you guys are allowed to say that, but we're not allowed to say that? And I go, listen, we get words and you guys get the world.
The world, yeah.
Just let us have these words, okay?
That's all we got.
Exactly. Yeah.
No, I wish you so much success.
You. So sweet.
You are so sweet. I wish you so much success. I'm excited. I'm excited to see you just.
Yeah, and then you know what? When it all happens and you ask me, like, what's my feeling and all that stuff, we'll do this again.
Yes.
And I'll have, like...
That's a promise, right? You're not going to be like, no. What? How many followers do you have?
Women of color have to support women of color. I'm a big believer in that.
Thank you. Thank you.
All right, thank you.
Thank you so much.
Thank you.
I'm excited for you.
We did it.
Yay! We did it.